business with spirit, with God, it's such a totally different ball game. I mean, it's just not
Yeah, yep. Because
it's not
it
normal.
doesn't fit a format that's out
Nope.
there at all. There's no
Nope.
logic to it. It's just like, "Hey, we're gonna pull up our bootstraps and here we go." You know?
It's like, "Oh, hey, guide said this today, so this is what we're gonna be doing."
Yeah, and this is for me, this has been 20 plus years of doing this, and, like, it was for the first 20 years or excuse me, for the first 10 years of massage practice, my god, it was like, "Whoa, what do I do?" Because I wasn't like anyone else, and I didn't fit into the cookie cutter format of the actual massage business, and, and then obviously you have a life and I have 2 children and blah, 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 so there was a lot of that. So I was always just kinda on the fringe of it all, trying to get into the center of it, but God had other plans for me, and, it's pretty cool. I feel like this next, like, couple years is gonna be huge because, it's all about community now, and, that's the thing I'm trying to create and build, and I know a lot of people are too because that's what we're craving. Because we have all this artificial stuff, all these social media platforms, and everyone's doing all this stuff, on a digital platform, but nobody's actually I shouldn't say nobody, but a lot of people aren't actually making it happen in real life and in real time, and that's the part that's missing.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. It's like, the Pluto well, Pluto just moving into
into
Aquarius,
Aquarius.
right? It's perfect because it is all about the community. It is all about the group. I know more and more within my own work, I see this need and necessity to really be bringing people together so that they have a place to go, a place to talk, a place to share, a place to, like, be themselves, and a place to receive support, just by
Mm.
being together. And I know that that's just going to intensify as we kind of move forward on the planet, during this time. So you mentioned like you've been in massage therapy for like 20 years. Like what initially drew you to it? Has this always been your jam?
So, uh, was I graduated from UConn, University of Connecticut back in 1999, and I was a lost hippie, and I didn't know what to do because, like, I went to college like a good boy, and everyone said, "This is what you gotta do," and when I graduated, I was like, "I don't wanna be a teacher. I don't wanna do any of the stuff that anybody's doing," and so I went into landscaping, believe it or not, and I loved working with the earth, and I loved being able to do a lot of cool stuff with my hands, and it was the winter, and all of a sudden, I'm like, "Wait, I gotta collect now? This sucks." So I decided that I was gonna go to massage therapy school. My first wife was like, "You give a heck of a massage. You should really, like, think about it." And I said, "You know what? That sounds like a plan." So I got into it, and I literally I had, I went through all the admissions process, and I got waitlisted, and I was like, "Oh, I guess it's not meant to be." And then within, I think it was 48 hours, they're like, "Hey, by the way, 3 people dropped out of the course, so you're in." And it was a 20-month long, process because we had to get licensed through the New York State licensure programming. So you had to get at least 1,200 hours of schooling because at that point in the game, most of the states were anywhere from 200 hours to 500 hours, and that was all you got, and you were a massage therapist. And I was like, "I'm gonna lose my mind at 500 hours. I wanna know everything because that's
Yeah.
how I am." So I ended up enrolling in Connecticut School of, Massage Therapy, and they had a New York program, and it was a 20-month-long program, and it was 1,200 plus hours of learning. So I got to learn a lot of Eastern modality, I got to learn a lot of, hands-on Western modality, sports massage, all that, and it was just such a perfect fit for me. I really enjoyed it because I just enjoy working with people one-on-one like that. So, it
How
was
long
just
is
a n
Go ahead.
no, go ahead. I was
I
done.
was I was just curious, like, how long massage has been around? Do you have any idea?
Oh, massage has been around forever. It's been around since ancient times. I mean, they talk about it in Egypt. They talk about it in the, back in the day. It's like it's touch therapy has always been something that humans have used as a way to help heal and move tissue and all that good stuff with healing. Um, the problem with massage was that at some point, it got kind of lumped in with the whole prostitution thing. So like a lot of people had this negative connotation for massage because you would go to, a spa and other things would happen besides massage. So that was the heart for me. That was the biggest hurdle that I had to deal with, and being a man too,
Hmm.
in the profession. I remember you know, having to deal with a lot of insecurity from women. Men seem to be really insecure with massage, having male massage therapists too. And there's a lot of sexual trauma that goes along with people's stories and stuff like that. So being a male, and I'm a big guy. I mean, I'm 6 feet tall and I'm like 280 pounds and I am a power lifter and I have tattoos all over the place and I'm super like, a big beard and all that. And I always laugh because some of my clients when I meet the first time are like, whoa, and they think I'm gonna manhandle them, and I'm like, don't worry, you're gonna get what you need to get because I'm gonna dial into your body, and that's another gift that I have. I have the gift to dial into somebody's body, and a lot of massage therapists do, but we're tapping into an energy, and when you're in that moment and you're present and you're allowing yourself to feel what's going on with the body, it's just this beautiful thing, and that's what's kept me in this profession for 23 years. This is literally my 23rd year. So,
I haven't ever, I mean, I guess first of all, I lived in Vietnam, so I was very familiar with like the happy endings and these sorts of things. But I didn't realize that that was actually a real hang up with the industry. So you're talking about like in the midst of kind of developing your career and I'm sure growing a practice that this was a big hurdle for you. Is that correct?
well, so as we were, so massage therapy in Connecticut, because that's where I'm from. They didn't start doing actual school and programs for licensure until about 1980. So from the late 60s through the 70s, there were a lot of massage parlors, and
Hmm.
that's where all the negative connotations come from. And so a lot of people would frequent the Asian spas, the any kind of like, I hate to be crude with the language with rub and tug places. Like that's literally, and that's the biggest joke I get. Oh, so how much for a happy ending? And I'm like, oh my God, I've heard that 10,000 times already, like in my career. Like, guys, come on, like, come up with something new. Um, it always astonishes me though when a woman says it, and that cracks me up. Because every now and again a woman will say something like, I'm like, whoa, because it's usually guys. But yeah, that's what it was. It was this culture of sexual deviancy, if you will, in regards to a massage parlor. And then that kind of just gave the bad taste in everyone's mouth about massage therapy for a while. And now there's all these people, that are proactively going to town hall meetings, and there's a lot of massage therapists on the licensure and state law part of things where they're trying to get different laws put in place. Well, there's a contingency of massage therapists just in this state alone constantly going to the government of Connecticut and saying, hey, we'd like to be able to get the ability to bill insurance and blah blah blah. And so that's another hurdle that massage therapists have been climbing. There's, I think it's Florida and Washington State. You can bill insurance and
Hmm.
get massage therapy there, but a lot of places now they're starting to bill insurance for massage if you go to like medical centers and doctors' offices and this and that. but a lot of times too, it's you submit for reimburse a lot of pocket. So the things are definitely changing, but with change, it's always slow.
Yeah.
And
Takes
I
time.
I personally feel like, they're blocking massage therapists because we didn't go to medical school. And yet I work with so many clients. When I tell them what's up, they'll go to a doctor and be like, wow, my primary care and ortho surgeon said the same exact thing you did. How did you know? They needed to put me in through MRIs. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just wired like that, you
Yeah.
know? So
Well, and that's one of the reasons, that I wanted to like sit down and talk with you is because I know that for myself, and this is quite frankly a very recent thing, just within this past year, I have started kind of going and to get a massage more consistently. And because I am so acutely attuned to my body and to energy, I've just been blown away at the movement and the shifts and those sorts of things that have been taking place within my body.
mm,
And not to say that wasn't happening before when I had massages, but I think I had them so rarely, I didn't really, see much of a change. But then also, I just don't think that I was as attuned to myself. So I didn't notice those shifts. And I definitely wasn't working with a massage therapist like yourself, who, this was more like, I'm with a friend, let's go into massage envy and like, get a massage. So I didn't have that sort of like deeper understanding. But when
yeah.
I first got a massage in, I think the fall of 2023, it had been several years. And I just walked out and I felt so much shifting in my body. And it was just like, oh my gosh. And I sat with it for a couple of days and just really noticed so much difference within my body. And the woman that I worked with was definitely more someone on your level in regards to,
Mm.
she does a lot of, what is it, cranial, sacral, sacral.
Craniosacral work, yeah.
Yeah.
That stuff's
And
pretty powerful.
yeah, I mean, she's, and she's also, uh, uh, done and worked with multiple modalities. I mean, it was just massage in that session, but I could feel so much more through
Mm,
it. And I think that that's really important for people to understand, because I think that, um, I feel that learning how to be more relaxed in our body is huge. I feel like doing these things for ourselves is very important. And I really wanted to kind of dive into why, this is so much more than just like, oh, hey, let me go get like a relaxing, luxurious massage,
yeah,
because it is
totally.
so much more than that. And so I'd love to dive into like, I'd love to dive into that with you.
You can dive into me if you'd like. I have a expansive energy. Um, yeah, that's definitely cool. I get asked that question a lot because what's the difference between me going to, let's say, a massage envy or some corporate entity versus coming to you? And you know, there's awesome massage therapists at Massage Envy and corporate places as well. I mean, I think there's a place called Elements Massage up here too that I just recently opened up within the last couple of years, and that's corporate. And I know of several massage therapists there that are amazing. Um, I know for me, when I got out of massage therapy school, I got bored right away. I was like, wow, I know how to do an opening effleurage, and I know how to do some petrissage, and wow, this is great. And after about like a month, I was like, is this all I'm gonna do for the next 20 years of my life? It's horrible. And so I started really looking into different modalities only because I could only get my clients to like a certain place. And then it was always kind of like, okay, well, this is where we're at. This is how far I can take you, and I don't know what else to do. And so I started looking into orthopedic massage work, which it's a funny name only because it basically marries a bunch of different modalities together where and we're more in tune with sports massage, fascial restrictions, how to move the fascia in the body to create more movement in the muscular compartments and all that. So we're marrying The Swedish, we're marrying the deep tissue, some neuromuscular therapy. It's a lot of really cool modalities, and you're marrying them in such a way that they create this beautiful cohesive relationship with one another, and then the body begins to process the work, and you get to see the person's progress. So every session builds on itself. And with me, and I'm sure many massage therapists, when you come in for your first session, it's like, okay, I need to look at the landscape here. What's overgrown? What needs planting? And that's how I always view the body, is either it's a landscape, or it's a painting that I need to paint, and I got to figure out how I'm going to paint it, and or it's an instrument that I'm going to play. Like that, for me, the body's always like an instrument or a painting or a landscape project. That's always how it's been for me. And because of that, it creates way more intimacy between myself and my client, because I know what I need to cultivate, what I need to weed, and what I need to propagate and plant and help with their progress. I work with a lot of athletes, um, a lot of CrossFit people, a lot of power lifters. I also work with a lot of stressed out people. And I'd say my clientele is predominantly women, but I have a lot of men too. So it's kind of cool in that regard. And I would always love to get more men into the mix, because men, we need more of that, touch therapy, because
Oh yeah.
we're so macho, and we have to, nothing can bother us, and we can't be touched by our emotions. And that's the part that I love about massage, is like what you said. You're getting in touch with your body. We're so far removed from our body, because most of us are up in here all the time in our minds. We're always thinking and projecting and blah, blah, blah. And we're never actually seated in our body to feel what we need to feel. And so that's what massage does for people. It helps them get into their body, and they get to go, holy cow, I never realized how tight my shoulder is, or how tight my left leg is, or my hamstrings. My God, before you touched me. And then I'm like, yeah, that's the beauty of it. Like, now you know where your spots are, and now we can work on that and help you integrate all those places. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting. Like even my housemate, he had a massage. I think it may have been like one of his, not his first, but like this type of massage was more of like a therapeutic massage. So it
mhm,
was a different type of massage than he'd ever had. And he was just blown away that like, around his hips and into his buttocks were like so tight. Like he had no idea that, and he's really struggled with back issues. He goes to the
mm,
chiro all the time. And it was like, he was so blown away that after just that one massage, like he didn't need to go to the chiro so much. He didn't need, like, it just really like loosened everything up
yeah.
for him. He was just completely blown away. I'm curious about, you kind of mentioned this very briefly, like, those with sexual trauma, like when they come in, do they come in for a massage? Like, how do you work with a body who's been, because I would imagine this is a lot of, this is a huge number of people, right? Male and
Yeah.
female, but especially women. And like you mentioned, primarily your clients are women. And
Mm,
so, I mean, you got to know probably at least one out of every three, right?
yeah. Well, and yeah, and that's a thing. That's another piece of the puzzle for me, was being trauma informed. Um, when I get to that point, and a lot of times it's cultivating rapport with your clients, earning their trust, and being able to, get to a point where they're going to open up with you and for you, so that you know what you're working with. And I've been pretty blessed in that once I get my hands on somebody, they're like, "Oh, this is real deal. This isn't going to be some, like, fluff and buff thing. This is like, we're going to start excavating and getting deep." And so a lot of times, if the body isn't responding to the work, that's when I start doing more energetic modalities like craniosacral therapy, to help with fascial restriction and movement that way. I'll also utilize work with trapped emotions and the like. And then there's also, it's interesting, within the last about, I'd say 2 years now, I'm working a lot with the fascial restriction of the the uterine walls along the pelvic bones, and like really
Mm,
working in those areas. And as I started working there, all of a sudden I'm starting to sense, um you know, the ovaries are trapped in a fascial restriction. And so now it's like, okay, well, how do I access that? And then I'm learning, and that's, for me, that's the other thing. It's always a dance, and I'm always learning with each session. So as I'm working with people, I get really, um I get to this place when I'm actually doing the work where I get super inquisitive, and I'm like, okay, well, if I'm moving this, I'm watching the person's face, let's say, because they're face up, and I'm doing work inside, the pelvic bowl, and I'm looking at their neck, and all of a sudden I can see the fascia like doing this little weird thing on the side of the neck, or all of a sudden the shoulder just goes and relaxes, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So now I know I'm onto something. So as I'm going and working in, I'm also now also like watching the whole thing happen too, because then I get to perceive in real time, am I doing the right thing or am I not? And then again, it's experimentation too, because it's like, well, this thing worked last session, but it's not working this session. So what do I have to do? So I've spent 2 decades really cultivating the toolbox so that I have a lot of different ways to work with people in that capacity.
yeah, I love that. I love that. I would imagine that does it bring up a lot of emotions in the client?
Oh yeah, a lot of times I get ugly crying on the table, which is great. You know, a lot of people, we're so guarded too because we're so afraid to let people in.
Yeah.
Everyone's so scared that if we saw, and I don't want to say ugly parts because that's a dumb word, but if we saw the parts of us that we tried to hide, because if God forbid we let people see who we really are, we would either get abandoned or rejected. So I try to really allow people to have that space to do what they need to do in the session so that they don't feel like, there's something bad or wrong with them. And I always love people like, I'm a really screwed up person, aren't I? And I'm like, no, actually, your back isn't as bad as you think it is. I've had worse, because that's the other thing. It's like we wear this badge of honor of like, I'm so messed up, and I'm gonna wear this badge about it. And it's like, no, you're not that messed up. You're actually just a human having a human experience, and your body is storing memories and trauma and discordant energy and all sorts of crazy stuff within it. And I'm going to help liberate that stuff for you. I'm basically like a computer hacker for the body.
Oh, I
So,
love that metaphor. That's cool.
yeah, I got to get your zeros and ones in order.
We gotta get this system updated.
Yeah, we got to unplug you from the matrix, damn it. So,
Please. So I'm curious about, just practitioner to practitioner. Like I am certified in Holy Fire Reiki, and I know when I started working within the body a couple years back, it was incredible for me to because I can see like the ley lines within the body and like how energy is moving and shifting. Like I'm curious about the ways in which you intuit with the body and what that is like for you.
yeah, I don't see stuff unless I'm like tapped in, and like I now do more I work. And if you would have told me this 20 years ago that this was going to come out of my mouth, I would laugh. But I bring in Yeshua a lot. I love Jesus. He's one of my favorite energies to work with. And I bring in Mary Magdalene into my sessions. That's the
Mm,
new thing that I've been doing this last like year. And the reason being is because I feel like we're needing to balance the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And in my belief system, those two were legit, like the divine masculine, divine feminine. And Jesus was a master healer. So like, and whatever the story goes on with him, it is what it is. I've recently started, doing my biblical stuff too. So I see all that, when I'm tapped into that and I bring him into the session, and then I literally watch my hands do whatever. Like I could be on I'm watching a movie and my hands are doing whatever they need to do. Like it's crazy. And it always makes me laugh because they just know where to go. They know how to do what they know how to do, and that's that. And I can then when I'm working, I can feel where the hiccups are energetically. So then I can just move to them. And the other thing that's really cool it's starting to develop now is as the person before they even come to me, I can just tap into their energy before they're even on my like in my presence. And I already know what I have to do before they get to the session, which
Mm,
is they'll come in and be like, my left hip is hurting. I'm like, yeah, I know, I figured it out before, but I also need to work on a lot of right side things today, just so you know, and they're like, wait, what? And I'm like, you'll see. And inevitably that's what happens. They'll come in, they have this preconceived notion of what it is they need. And I honor that because their brain needs to know that they're getting what they asked for. But then I'm also doing like higher realm stuff where I know what I have to bring in for them so that they can experience the the liberation of the tissue, if you will, in that moment as to what it is their brain is conceiving. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So like you have to, and that's the other thing. That's why the cookie cutter massage approach makes me mental because it's lazy, and there's nothing wrong with it. If you need to go get a massage for relaxation or whatever, and you ought to do the five opening effleurages and the shoulder rub, that's great because everybody needs to feel their body from the perspective of having somebody actually initiating touch so they can see what's going on in their body. And if they just want to relax, good for them because this world is stressful. I personally like working with um complicated pain cases. I've been to the doctor, I've been to PT. Everywhere I've gone to is telling me now that I need surgery and that there's no way I can ever escape this knee pain or this shoulder pain or my neck and shoulder. Everyone's told me I'm hopeless and I want to be the avenue of hope for people. So there are people I can't help. I've had it happen. But I'd say about 75, 80% of the time, I can pretty much help most people avoid surgery, avoid unnecessary healing time, and just like get them to a point where they're like, oh my God, I can lift again. Oh my God, I can run again. I can play basketball again. I can do the things I love again, pain free. This is awesome you know? And that's why I do it. That's the payoff for me is just to watch somebody who's completely defeated after 3 or 4 sessions go, "Holy cow, I was able to run 6 miles this week. I haven't been able to run a mile for the last 8 months." So,
I'm
that's
with
why I
you.
do what I do.
Yeah, no, 100,000%. I mean, even in like the readings that I offer for folks, like, if someone wants to come in and learn about like their guides or their intuitive gifts, like, cool, we can do that. But the people who come in are like, my life's falling apart and like I'm gonna get divorced or like whatever. I'm like, let's go in. Like, let's figure out what's going on.
Sure.
I think that if you are like truly well, I mean, it's very obvious. I think this is, a big draw for me to you and to your work is those of us who truly want to help, truly want to make a difference. Like if we're just here to collect money, then like I'll do something else, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But that's just not what it's about. It's really about making a big difference. And I just love everything that you're talking about. And I think what's interesting to me is the work within the body and how it continues, like as you continue to grow on your path and your gifts change, in your work with people and how that kind of unfolds, I think as a practitioner is always very interesting to me, how the different intuitive sort of hits kind of come online
Mm,
And also, I know I've seen within my work when things are happening on one side of the body, it's usually the other side of the body that needs the work, because like things are like out of
yeah.
balance. Um, in regards to pain and working with pain, so I know that one of the things that you've done, just one of the modalities that you work with is pendulum alchemy, and you've kind of created a protocol for working with pain specifically. Like, why is this such a big draw to you? And like, what is this protocol about?
So the reason I love pendulum alchemy in regards to the body is because the only limit you have with it is what your brain can conceive. So, for instance, if somebody who is in a lot of pain is on the table and I'm touching them and I'm not heavy-handed, but I can be when your body's allowing me to go in, especially if I have to get into deeper tissue, but I never purposely try to hurt anyone or try to muscle my way in because most people safeguard themselves in regards to pain. So when you go deeper too quick and too fast, that person goes into a trauma response. And then you basically have been kicked out of their computer system because all of the different protection devices have been completely like put online again, and then they're like shrinking back into this like closed up fetal position, and you've lost them, right? And that's happened to me so many times. So when that happens, I say to myself, wow, I need to start working on an energetic level. So I'll break out some pendulums and I'll start saying some commands. And a lot of times it's send love to the tissue. Let's send the color gray. Let's say it's a flickering gray light to the whatever's causing the discomfort. And the pendulum spinning, it's doing its thing. When it stops because the command spins, and then the pendulum stops. And we don't know if it's actually going to work or not, but it gives us more potentiality of working than not. And so then I'll ask questions like, are there trapped emotions in this area? Does this require emotional healing? And if I can't get into the physical aspect of the body, then I need to get into the energetic stuff. And once I start working with emotional healing or physical imbalances or any of that kind of stuff, I can actually start seeing the person's body responding differently to the work. And when people are super tapped in to their bodies and they're willing to try anything, a lot of times that stuff works way quicker. So different protocols too will include like I'll look up a lot of different shiatsu or acupressure points to see what it is they're actually doing, where that point crosses, what it's going to help in regards to whether it's a hip pain or maybe it's a neck pain or something. And I will then use the pendulum to move the energy from those subo points, right? Whether they need to be balanced or they need to be tonified, meaning that there's not enough energy in the spot. So we need to tonify it to bring energy there. I also use this modality called Tong Ren therapy,
Yes.
where it's a doll of the Tong Ren, which is the brass man, and it's got all the acupuncture points on it. And I use a magnetic hammer and I tap the doll. And when I'm tapping the meridian points, I can actually feel the person's energy moving. Most of the time, my clients are like, holy cow, my whole body's lighting up right now. I feel so much heat, or hey, things got really cold. Sometimes people don't feel anything at all. I remember my own experience with Tong Ren. I thought the guy who was doing it was insane. I was like, yeah, yeah, okay, this guy's doing voodoo. And I mean, essentially, you're tapping a human representation. That's what, I call it voodoo to take the sting off of it. But it wasn't until the third time I received Tong Ren, and all of a sudden, I just started crying and sweating, and my whole body was like doing the trauma release thing. And I'm like, holy cow, this is insanity. And that's when I knew that it's my mind that's cutting myself off from the healing because it's got a preconceived notion of what I'm supposed to expect. And that's the thing. The ego wants what the ego wants, and it will convince you that you're not having anything because it's not this powerful experience. And it's in the subtlety that we experience the actual liberation of whatever pain we're experiencing. It's in that subtle moment where there's nothing really happening, and all of a sudden you go, whoa, everything just moved, this is amazing. And that's, again, that's the other reason I love this stuff, because it's like I get to be creative. And massage therapy for me is my creative outlet. It's my way of writing poetry. It's my way, like I said before, it's like my way of painting and landscaping. It's just what it is. It's become such a creative outlet that I love my job, and it's never a job, you know? It's only a job. It's only a job when I can't figure out why I'm in my own mess and how the hell to get out of it. You know what I mean? That's when it becomes a job. So
Yeah, I had the beautiful fortune of being in one of your healing containers back in at the end of 2023. Are they all called sacred chambers?
yeah, it's sacred chamber healing is the name I gave to it, because I like the idea of stepping into the chamber.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I like it. Um, and I remember on the live that you were doing when you pulled out was it Ren?
Tong Ren, yeah.
Yeah, it was wild. I had never seen anything like that before. Um,
Yeah.
it's very cool that you've incorporated that into your work though. And I think it's so fascinating to me. So I'm actually launching an Akashic journey with the body again right now.
Mm,
I'm in the midst of that lead up, but that is such a hardcore deep dive on the body from an Akashic perspective. It's very different than anything I've seen out there. But um, one of the things that really kind of blew me away, and my mind just like literally went blank. So I'm going to maybe have to come back around here, but the mind. So the mind is one of the big things that we break down in that course in regards to how much the mind prevents us from healing.
mm.
And I'd be curious, like from your perspective with your client work, like how often is this primarily the issue? Because, the way that I have learned in my work with the body and certainly through the Akasha, the body, it's our best friend, right? It's
Mhm.
always trying to get us in balance, like no matter whether we're going through disease or pain or whatever the case may be. And I really feel like it is so much the mind that prevents that healing or really blocks us in whatever way. Like, how much of the mind work do you end up doing with clients?
Well, it's funny because my clients are always a reflection of me too, which is funny. And a lot of people don't see that. I don't think. But when I'm in a good place in my own mind and everything's flowing and everything's great, I have the ability to get my clients to entrain to that, right? If I'm in a bad spot and my life is going to hell in my perception, I don't have as great of a session with my clients. So I have to do this work on a consistent basis to get my mind right. Because if I don't have my mind right, I am not going to actually do much of anything for anybody. What I've noticed is people get into this groove like a record, and they're playing this sound bite over and over. Oh my God, my body's in pain. Oh my God, I'm never gonna get better. Ah, and they're trudging through life. And I see that, and sometimes I have to, give them an emotional smackdown, if you will. I'm just like, wake up from this fog you're in, damn it. But I do it with love, and it's tough love sometimes, but that's what I needed. And I attract people a lot like me. So when I'm at my goal with everybody is this. I work with you for 3 sessions, whether it's an energy session, whether it's um hands-on, doesn't matter. If I do my distance work with you, if we're not making any headway by at least the third session where we're working together, then I need to start figuring out, like, what is your mind not allowing you to do? And so then I have to go into the emotional healing, the different blocks. I too use the Akash as well when I work, to see how the blocks are actually manifesting in people's lives. And then I just do the clearing work for them. And I try to get them to see where they're at. And once we get a breakdown of that, all of a sudden the natural healing mechanism starts swooping in and everything starts changing. But if I don't see the changes happening within the third session with my clients, I always try to get into the mind, because the mind is trying to protect you. And that's the other thing that's funny about the mind. Even if it perceives that it's protecting you in such a negative fashion, it's usually because of the way you were wired as a child. Most of us are walking through life at the wiring mechanism that was created in our belief system between the ages of like 1 and 6. So you have this 8-year-old kid in a 40-year-old body flipping out over stuff that happened because their mom or dad weren't present enough, or their society, wired them in to believe this like rejection or whatever. I'm a rejection person, so I believe everything's rejecting me all the time. So I have to literally sit in pattern opposition all the time and be like, no, you're not being rejected. It's you perceiving rejection, but they're actually not rejecting you. They have boundaries, and they have this and they have that, and they have their own set of insanity that they're dealing with. And so it's not a rejection of you. So I have to know that if I'm going through that, pretty much everyone's going through that. And I don't think there's a lot of people on this planet that don't have some kind of childhood trauma that's not like causing them to do what they do. So I studied this technique called the break method, which is an amazing self-guided self-exploration modality. And I learned what went into my basket. And holy cow, I was like, wow, this is why my life is the way it is at 50 years old. I'm going to be 50 next Monday. And it's a riot because I have an 8-year-old running this show. And I have to like reparent myself and love myself and do all this stuff. And I have to have the same patience with my clients, because if I don't have that patience with them, I lose them, because I lose myself when I'm not patient with myself. And we live in a world that's like hustle culture, do this. Being a man, you're supposed to have $1 million in the bank by the time you're 40, and you have to do this, and you can't show any emotion, and you got to be an alpha male. And it's like, oh my God, shut up. And that's what everybody's dealing with on my massage table, is this preconceived notion of what we're supposed to do. And so many of us don't allow God's grace in. God wants us to slow down. Jesus in the New Testament, right? I'm reading the Bible because I think it's a cool story. Talks about just slow down. Give your problems to God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. I call it God. That's my higher power. When I take the time every day to slow down, I see my life unfold so much differently than if I forget to actually do the work. And I can't tell you, hey, you got to do all this stuff. And then meanwhile, I'm not doing it, because then I'm a hypocrite. And what's the point? You know what I mean? So I've been really in this mode for the last 4 years of learning how to slow down, learning how to trust my higher power, and learning how to trust that the unfoldment is going to be exactly what I need it to be, even if it doesn't look the way I want it to look. And that's the hard part. And that's what everyone, I feel like, is struggling with right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. Slow down. I mean, oh my gosh. So the monthly forecasts on this podcast have for, I think, the middle of last year, beginning of the fall, they really started pushing like slow down. And in my personal life, freaking forget it. That's like my lifelong lesson. Like my brain's like, it's a 6-lane highway 24/7. Like, I want everything now, now, go, go. Like, nobody moves fast enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not a way of living. It's not living, it's like constant. being in the adrenaline, being in the speed, being, I mean, it's just, it's not, and it's certainly not where, like, I can't fully enjoy life in those places. And I know moving into these times, it's something I talk about on a lot on the podcast lately. It's so important for us to be slowing down. I think the big popularity of the nervous system coming in
Mm,
to the conversation right now on so many different levels is simply because we all need to be slowing down in our own way.
yeah.
That's truly being able to live life, because we're not able to be present unless we're slowing down. We're not able to discern what it is that's going on with our body or our mind or our situation. It's such a huge part of I think, society has taught us that we need to be moving so fast, especially here in the West. Like you said, need to be doing all this stuff, need to be achieving all these things. When I hit 40, I was like, I always knew that my life would begin at 40. And I mean, I truly like found, I started stepping into this work towards, when I was 39, but also I had a lot of ideas about where I was going to be financially, when I hit
Mm.
40, and I was not there, you
Me either.
know?
Don't worry.
And it's been that sort of like deconditioning of all that crap. I'm curious, in your work, I know, like, again, that the work that I do with clients, I call my sessions restoration sessions, my
Mm,
energy healing sessions, with the Akasha, and there's multiple modalities pulled in. But one of the things that comes up a lot within those sessions is there's a lot of energy work that'll be done, but then there's often, I should say always, but often there's also this practical, like, these are the things you need to also be doing in your life to
mhm.
really assist in this healing. Is that a
Yeah.
part of your work? Like, where does that kind of come in?
Um, we live in the age of information. So, and so many people are so dumb right now. It's amazing. It always cracks me up. Like you can literally look anything up on online and people still have questions, and I get impatient with that. But like you were saying, this fast-paced life is not sustainable.
No.
So, what do I need people to do? Well, I need people to go outside, go in nature, um, you know, hang out with trees. I know that sounds all crazy. Like to most people, that sounds insane, but like sitting under a tree and breathing and just having your feet on the actual bare earth and grounding yourself is like the biggest thing. People are stuck working in front of their computers. They're working 8 hours in front of their computers. They're seated all day. Everything's like compressed, and then, they come in for an hour. They want me to be this magician. It's like, oh, I need you to, like, hey, you got 40 years of poor behavior, and you want me to fix you in an hour. And I'm not fixing you. I'm just pressing buttons and you're fixing yourself. I'm just helping your body remember what it needs to remember. But if you keep doing these dysfunctional behaviors and patternings and what have you, you're not going to get better. You're going to waste my time and you're going to waste your money, quite frankly. Right.
Yeah.
So, people don't want to hear that though, because a lot of people want you to wrap them up in their cotton wool blanket and just keep them safe. And that's great. And I do provide that safety, but I also tell these people, listen, when you go home, you're sitting at your desk for 8 hours, put a timer on every hour. And who cares if you look batshit crazy in the office? Most of you are home anyway because COVID changed the world, right? But stretch, do opening stretches to open up the shoulders, put your hands behind your head and just really go left and go right and just give your body that chance to lubricate all the synovial fluid and have all your body parts get that beautiful stretch they need. If your hips are tight, you know, look up a runner stretch, look up a couch stretch. There's a million YouTube videos out there. Like it's insane that people still don't know what to do. Like it
Yeah.
cracks me up.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sound like this jerk know-it-all. But when people are like, "Well, what do you think I should?" Google it. Because that's what I do. Because you're gonna ask me to do XYZ. And yes, I have my expertise, but sometimes you're asking me things that I don't know the answer from. So guess what? I'm gonna Google it for you. So if I can do that, you can do that. And that's the stuff I try to impress upon my my clients. And I do it in as funny and like, as well as I can stay grounded without making them feel stupid or whatever. Because 90% of the time, I feel stupid because I'm being put on the spot, being asked, like, what stretches would you recommend? And I'm like, damn, I got to look up stretches for this particular condition because this isn't something that is normal in like everyday society because they're presenting with something that's so far left field that you don't even know. So that's what I do. I try to give them practical solutions, and when they actually do the work that I suggest, they're like, "Oh, the work is maintaining." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I know that's how it works." It's nothing. You don't have to do anything crazy. Even if you just watched a 15-minute yoga video, let's say you have low back pain, right? Your low back pain is due to restricted psoas and iliacus muscles in your in the anterior aspect of your body, which cause you to go into hip flexion, right? Now I do a session where I help all that fascia unwind, get those hip flexors back. We're doing fascial stretch, fascial manipulation, working on all that stuff. And now all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I haven't been able to touch my feet for like the last 6 months because of all that tightness in my hips, and it's gone now. And then I'll say, okay, this is what I want you to do. Take some Epsom salt soaks, go out in nature, take some time to do a practice like where you're going into your body and just going into those spaces and just make 20 minutes a day for you. That's it. That's all it takes. And that's how I roll. Um and even when you do my like week-long containers, I have like best practices to get the most out of it, and it's part of the pinned feature on Facebook in the group. So
Well,
which you experience yourself.
self-responsibility is massive, I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's just like we have to be responsible for ourselves. We have to, like you said, Google the things. We have to be willing to spend some time researching, learning, reading, doing whatever the case may be. I think there's, like you said, there is so much information that's available online now for
Mm,
freaking everything, basically. So,
everything.
you know,
Even
um,
stuff you don't want to know about.
so much you don't want to know about. So kind of like as we're wrapping up here, I definitely want to give you an opportunity to like, for folks to find you and stuff. But really like my last question before we go there is I'd love for you to like how do you advise people find practitioners like yourself, in their local areas, like who can work with them and with massage, like maybe what are some of the things to kind of look for, maybe some questions to ask, you know what I mean? Just because some folks may have no idea, like understanding the difference between.
Yeah. Um, you know, I always because people always ask me like, well, how do I find somebody who does what you do? Looking up orthopedic massage therapists, going on Instagram, hashtags, looking up massage therapy, whatever. And actually, when you see people that are doing technique work, they have a reel and they're doing, some kind of body specific work, and they're applying it, and they look like they know what they're doing. And then you could see like, how many people are following them, how many likes do they have or whatever, and getting a sense of that, right? That's a big part of it too. Again, it's consistency in the delivery of what it is you do, but then looking and questioning them, like, are you trauma informed? How long have you been doing this for? What type of massage modalities do you incorporate in your sessions? And then, if you have to talk to them about whatever issue you have, can they kind of explain the issue back to you in layman's terms, and then getting a sense of like who they are energetically, like just tapping into them. For people that don't understand what that means, is just sitting with them on the during the intake, and like getting a sense of like, okay, how is this person going to help me, and then getting the work done. If after like a couple sessions, and that's the thing, when you have a soft tissue issue, right? it's not a one and done. Sometimes it is. When we get those clients, it's awesome. But for somebody who's got a complicated issue, it's going to take some time, because it didn't just take, people think, oh, I bent over for a piece of paper, my back, I couldn't get back up. Well, that wasn't the problem. The problem has that the lead up to all that is what we need to figure out. So when you're with a practitioner, giving them a couple sessions to really like tap into their work. And if you're not seeing results by the third or fourth session, you're not a good fit with that person. And you haven't wasted your money. You've explored a possible option, but there's a lot. The problem with the world is, for every good practitioner, there's 50 that aren't good. You know what I mean? And so like that's the time waster for so many people. And the people I find, this has been my experience over the last 5 years. The people who are the loudest out there going, "This is what I do," are usually the people who don't have um the best techniques in the world that actually get you better. Because every time I work with someone, like, oh yeah, I work with XYZ, I saw them on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, and I figured they would know what they were doing. And a lot of times people will say it was a horrible experience, and it blows my mind. So that's why I get weird about even just posting that stuff a lot. That's why I try to just do like a couple posts a day, or one like a couple a week, and just show what I do. And then if you get attracted to it, you come on in and we work from there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
You
I
know?
think, when it comes to, I mean, one of the things I always suggest with folks with like acupuncture or anything like that, like
Mm,
really spending the time to kind of get to know the practitioner a bit, like check out
yeah,
their website, check out their social sites, make a phone call, like don't rush into it. Really make sure that you kind of feel aligned with who they are. And
yeah.
then, give it a shot and go for it, and you're just gonna, and like you said, I mean, like information's information. It's all helpful. It's all powerful. Um, so I know I kind of mentioned this. I had the opportunity to participate in one of your Sacred Chambers groups, which was awesome, and I loved it. And definitely led to me being like, Dave, come be on the show. Um, but I'd love for you, because of course I would so come see you for a massage. Like I'd be down.
Well, if you're
Um,
ever in Connecticut, come on over.
yeah, well, exactly. But we can't all do that. But you do all of this beautiful energy work. You've got these containers. So share with folks like where they can find you. And of course, I'm going to provide links and stuff. And then kind of share with us like how folks can work with you. What are some of your options, offerings?
Well, so with the link tree link that you'll have, there'll be the ability to book massage directly with me, right? But there's also energy sessions you can book. And obviously with energy sessions, I have clients all over the world. I work with people, a lot of people in Europe and South America, Canada, all over the country here too. So they find me through those links. And then um the Sacred Chamber group that I have on Facebook, that's a public group um that you can ask to be a part of. And I usually share my offerings. I try to do every couple of weeks, I'll try to do like I even just do a free hour of clearing. So I'll go live, and I'll just have, I'll tap into what the group needs, and I just start clearing. And the people who know that they just know, they're like, oh, I was on the live with you. So you can have up to, like, sometimes I have 20, 30, 40 people in group. The containers are cool because they're a week long. I start on a Sunday morning and I clear throughout the week. It's 7 days, and it's a pretty decent price point for what you get. And I also started doing more live work with the clearing. So like I'm actually doing like this last one I did 3 lives. So but it's a daily clearing. That I love doing that because you can help so many people with an hour a day. It's mind blowing. The quantum containers are great because everyone's higher self is working and collaborating with each other on a higher plane to bring in all the clearing necessary to create the wellness everybody's looking for. And you come in with three intentions, and that's what we open up with, you know. So it's cool. But yeah, sacred chamber healing. If you look that up on Facebook, you can definitely find it. I know it's public, but I have to approve you to come in. So don't be sketchy. Just kidding.
And we'll close with "Don't be sketchy." Awesome, Dave. Well, it has been incredible to have you. I'm so thankful for you, so thankful for the work that you do. Thank you for sharing your time with us. I know the audience is gonna absolutely eat you up and be connecting with you. So thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm glad we got to connect.
Yeah, it's moving it from Facebook to real life
Real
in
life.
quotations.
Zoom life. Zoom life. Yeah.
Zoom life. Perfect. Perfect. Perfect.
So
All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining us today and for being here. Be sure to connect with Dave. You'll find all of the links in the show notes. Share it with someone else who can benefit from it. Leave us a review on iTunes or Spotify. Be sure to join the email list for updates, resources, all kinds of different things going on. Sending you so much love. Thanks again for being here. And don't forget, when we invest in ourselves, the world benefits. Until next time.